Must have been Effie then, huh? Must have been her, tell me!
Yeah, it must have been Effie!
Listen, don't say shit to her about this, alright? Yeah.
So from the government, conspiracies, and to social media, who determines what the truth is? It's an interesting topic they had in the classroom. Who controls the information to say what we're being told is the truth? And who even determines what the truth is when someone has the power to control the narrative? As the news about Lorenzo's death started to filter through, there was one person missing from the classroom, and that was Diana. Jackie said the consistency about Lorenzo Tejada's criminal past collectively determines what would be accepted as the truth. And the same could also be said about Tariq St. Patrick, because I'm sure we all remember what was reported about the St. Patricks in power. But Tariq said the media will report whatever suits their agenda, and to be honest, we only have to look at Elon Musk taking over Twitter and what he's released. It also goes back to the argument, who determines what the truth is and who determines what's a lie. Now that was the theme of episode 6, The Land of Lies. This was an episode where to reckon with the betrayal from those closest to him, from Monet having to keep the family together by covering up Lorenzo's death with even more lies. But something we know what happens when you don't tell the truth or cover up one lie with another. It starts a snowball effect in this game, and then it's only a matter of time before your lies are blown up, whether it be in 3 months or 24 years, just like in the case of Zeke and just like Tariq confronting Effie about Lauren. Now the episode picks up with Monet identifying Lorenzo's body, as she calls Cane. He's playing poker at Mecca's penthouse. When she calls Dru, he's back to drawing, but not just any old drawing, it's a picture of Gordo, his father's killer. Diana was getting busy with a man nobody trusts, Salim Arshay Freeman, and we're gonna get to the events of Lorenzo's funeral as well as his ghost. But someone who also looked like he saw a ghost was Tariq St. Patrick. Tariq and Effie also wake up to the news that Lorenzo was killed, and neither of them knew how or why. But Tariq had something else on his mind, Effie's betrayal, and we could all see the look by Tariq's face. He was done playing games with Effie. But in episode 5, Lauren did make Tariq aware if what he was saying was true and he didn't know anything about the murder attempt, then they're not the only ones that he needs to be careful of, and the other is Cooper Saxe. When Cooper Saxe walks in and tells Davis about Lorenzo's death, he asks Saxe what does he know about Lauren's death, because Tariq said there is an investigation, and this is where I think Davis may be onto Saxe. Not only was his assistant watching him in episode 5 as he went into his office, he noticed how his phone pinged, and then he asked him to speak to Rashad Tate about his brother Theo. Now something Power Book 2 Ghosts seem to love an emphasis on is watches, which goes all the way back to season 1, and the same could be said in this scene.
You got my watch. I mean, it was a gift.
First of all, how dare you? Second of all, that shit is trash as fuck.
I really do feel there's a twist coming, and with there being such an emphasis on Saxe's watch and how he said it was a gift, who was the gift from, and could this be another wire, or is it just something that the writers are throwing in there just as a curveball, just something to think about, especially because shortly after Saxe was done speaking to Tate, in came Jenny Sullivan, and this is where we come back to the topic of truth.
Why not just tell me the truth?
Jenny's case against Tariq St. Patrick came through Cooper Saxe connecting Lauren's death to his criminal organization, and he was annoyed about Jenny not telling him the truth, but Jenny completely flipped the chessboard and got control over Saxe. She told him if he refuses to cooperate, his confession about bringing a gun to Truth will be used against him. This goes all the way back to Power when Saxe went to Truth the night of Ghost's death, but also focuses on one big theme in Power in general. Knowing information is power, but also dangerous. So speaking of knowledge, information, and power, Lauren wakes up from arguably the best sleep she's had in 3 months, and that's because she's back home at her parents'. But in comes Jenny, who says her parents were moved after her death, and the only way for her to end this nightmare is to help her with this case. But after Lauren's conversation with Tariq in episode 5, she's questioning Jenny whether Effie made the move to kill her without Tariq knowing, and she knows that Tariq cares about her and tried to keep her safe, and at this moment in time, she doesn't exactly trust Jenny Sullivan, which is why she makes a request to speak to Cooper Saxe. Now, something Lauren hasn't had access to in a while is the internet, but being at her parents and knowing the neighbor's Wi-Fi password allowed her to catch up on some news and how Saxe helped Tariq in the Jabari case. But as we as the audience and Cooper Saxe knows, Tariq is far from innocent. But something I raised during my Lauren breakdown earlier in the week was how I wasn't sure whether Lauren would be willing to cooperate before Cooper Saxe. Even though he knows Tariq is innocent when it comes to Lauren, he knows he's still done a lot of bad shit. Before Saxe was defending Tariq, he was in the US Attorney's office hunting his father, James St. Patrick, and how he believes that Tariq was groomed to live this life. He told her he used to sell before he even got to high school, and that's how Raina St. Patrick got killed, a death which Tariq does make reference to later on, which I'm going to come to in just a moment. But in this conversation with Lauren, Cooper Saxe said that Jabari, the dead kid in the pool, and the drugs on campus was all Tariq St. Patrick, and what if they can put him away for all those crimes? But I don't think Lauren's buying it anymore. I don't think she knows what to believe. especially because we saw her texting Tariq and telling him they need to talk. So I think she's about to spill the beans on the case on law enforcement and how they're building a case against him, and maybe that's the only way Lauren survives, is if she helps Tariq St. Patrick. Now, someone else who was trying to save Tariq St. Patrick was Effie, but Tariq doesn't see it that way, especially after his fight and conversation with Brayden.
The fucking town, even though Cane was gonna kill me. What the fuck does Cane gotta do with this shit, B?
He came to me and said Lauren had us on a fucking wire.
How the fuck does he know that? I don't fucking know. I didn't say shit.
Now, this is something the Power fans have wanted to see besides Tariq getting a car, him being able to throw his hands, and that's what we saw with him punching Brayden and taking him down. But in a panic, Brayden told him the truth about Cane knowing they were being caught on a wire, and how it was Effie who told Cane, and now Tariq was able to connect the dots. In the classroom, Tariq told Effie that he wanted to take her away, and as Tariq was driving her to the same location she tried to kill Lauren, they had a conversation about truth. Now, one way to get someone to open up and tell you the truth is if you tell them 1 or 2 secrets about yourself, and this builds some sense of trust, and then the other would normally be more inclined to open up to you as well, and that's exactly what Tariq did. He told her how he killed Ray Ray after what he did to his sister, but after he dealt with Ray Ray, he started a cycle of shit that he just can't get away from. He started doing other shit just to outrun what he did in the past, and that's something which is continued in this conversation with Grandma Estelle, something I'm gonna get to later on. Now, Tariq continued to open up to her about Ghost and Tasha, and how their relationship wasn't exactly the best. So when Tasha came up with a plan to get rid of Ghost, he told Effie he couldn't let her do it by herself. Now, Tariq admitting what he did to his father was a warning shot for Effie. If he was willing to kill his own father, then nobody is safe. Now, this is where Effie also opened up to Tariq. She told him how her mom used to bring different guys home, and one of them used to like to touch her, a clue that was actually left in the classroom scene when Professor Harper asked the students to take a step back if any of them had ever been sexually harassed. But the look on Tariq's face, all he had to say was that was fucked up. He's sorry it happened to her, but is there anything else? Meaning the Lauren secret. And then it begins to dawn on her. They're back at the scene of the crime where she tried to kill Lauren. Now, Tariq was done playing games with Effie. He gave her an opportunity to come clean, and he wanted the truth. He wanted to know what happened to Lauren, but one thing he didn't let slip was how he still knows Lauren is alive. Now, as Tariq tells Effie he wants the truth, she reaches for a piece, but Tariq knows she wasn't gonna do shit. But here's where we do need to flip this on Tariq St. Patrick. Effie told him that she wore a wire, and despite Tariq saying that she wasn't in the game, we know that's not true. As Scrappy once said in Raising Kanan, everyone's in the game. So in my opinion, Effie was definitely right. They couldn't take any chances, and her getting rid of Lauren was her having Tariq's back, but Tariq really wasn't having any of it. He was done. Now, when he confronted Cane, he didn't make that much of a big deal, because I think he expects this sort of shit of him going behind his back from someone like Cane. He was more hurt about Effie and Brayden's betrayal, so he cut them out of the business, but Cane made it known that they need them, because if they don't move this product, Noma will kill them. And so Brayden and Cane knew they had to do something to get Tariq to let them back in, and Brayden tried to cut his access to Western Holdings. He said that he was a part of the business as much as he was, but that didn't work, because Tariq can't trust any of them. With Tariq realizing he has nobody around him that he can trust, he visits Rayna's grave, but Grandma Estelle lets Tariq know, reap what you sow, and his lies are what got Rayna killed, and how he was just like his father. Grandma Estelle also warned that if he doesn't stop what he's doing, then he's just gonna end up right next to Ghost, which is when he says it's the right time to get out. But when he puts a plan in motion to get Estelle to Yasmin and Tasha, he was stopped by Obi, but I definitely think this was a decoy from Tariq St. Patrick, because he knows he just can't leave. He also knows he's being watched after Noma found him in Milan. So as he was held at gunpoint by Obi, Grandma Estelle was safe and she was ready to go and live with Yasmin and Tasha. And so I definitely think this was a decoy from Tariq St. Patrick, just to get Grandma Estelle safe. Now, just to finish on Tariq's trust issues, we also saw him get into bed with Diana after telling her she should work with them. But at this moment in time, she sticks by what Lorenzo said. She's going to be the first to harder to graduate. But Tariq does let her know she can stash a product that Lorenzo gave her on the roof. But as the sun rose, Effie was at Diana's door and she wanted to work with her because Diana had the product and Effie had the system, but this was certainly cold. I really did think soon after she saw Diana and Tariq together, she might have done a thing with Cane. But Cane was here because he didn't want Effie to be punished for handling business, and so he promised he'll slide her over some bricks. But never say never with Effie and Cane. It might be something that's brewing, especially now that Tariq and Effie are done. Now, we later also saw Tariq meeting with Brayden and telling him that he needed to show up to the meetings because they had to keep the cash flowing for Noma until they figure out a plan to get to Noma's daughter. So Noma's daughter may be a make or break for the crew. Now, one thing I did like about what Tariq did, he confronted all three of Brayden, Effie and Cane without telling anyone Lauren was alive, and he's keeping that card close to his chest. Someone else who's keeping her cards very close to her chest is Monet Tejada. Monet wanted Cane to take charge of cleaning their money, But after their conversation in episode 5, he knew that Monet had questions for Lorenzo around IG not killing Zeke. And this is where Monet also told Cane she knows about the secrets he kept from her, and how he's also sweating she could be aiming for him next. So it's a good job that she didn't kill his father. And Monet believes that when Cane adds 2 + 2, it equals 5. But I don't think she realizes Cane is someone who's a lot more smarter in season 3. And sooner or later when these kids find out, shit is about to get real for Monet. Now, with a life insurance policy and their money, Cane approaches Brayden, who tells him to invest into Western Holdings, and he goes to Kiki, who can make that happen. But she wants a cut. But all I can see is this going horribly wrong, and the Tejadas losing everything, which would put them even deeper into the game. And I don't think I can even trust Kiki, so she still want to keep an eye on. At Lorenzo's repass, we saw Kai return from episode 1, who's always had a bit of a thing for Monet, but also how they're letting Lorenzo's death go unanswered. So here's where we see the family conflict begin. Dru wants revenge, but Cane wants to look after his family first, and we all know how Cane wants to lead the Tejada family. By the other side of the room, we have Monet telling Dru she wants him to take Lorenzo's place, but definitely don't do anything too reckless, especially with the Russians. Now upstairs we had Diana and Salim just can't stop asking questions. He also warned her what she can fall back into if she's not too careful, and as much as I don't trust Salim, I definitely have to agree. We also saw how she was caught on the rooftop cameras, and now she's on the radar of law enforcement. So Jenny and Blanca are going to be able to slowly build their case. Now before the funeral, Dru wanted revenge on the Russians, so he made a call to Gordo, and he said he would have done the same for his father. Ironically he did, because he was the man who slit Lorenzo's throat. So I really can't wait until Dru finds out it was Gordo who killed his father, because even though we're slowly starting to see him turn at this moment in time, I think he's going to surprise a few. Now acting like a delivery boy, Dru got into the Russians' restaurant and stabbed Pavel the Russian, a kill that certainly poured more fuel onto the fire with the Russians. So at Lorenzo's funeral, we had the Tejadas, the Castillos, and a lot of people who knew Lorenzo. Emotions were running high for Dru and Diana, especially as she gave a eulogy around truth, while Blanca and Jenny sat back deciding now wasn't the right time to pounce. Now for Cane, he took the chain that he gave to Lorenzo in season 2, and he said family first, but what followed will completely change the game. The Russians attacking Lorenzo's funeral made Dru step up and take charge, while they were under heavy gunfire, and although they were able to ward off the attack, Cane knows that Dru is out of his mind starting a war with the Russians, so when he tells him he's stepping up to number 1, Cane and Dru get into a bit of a tussle, and Monet backs Dru.
You might be rocking Poppy's piece, but I'm stepping up to number 1.
Now later that evening, as Davis informed Monet the feds roped up the Russians, so for now the Tejadas are safe, but this was the moment Monet knows she might have made a mistake. Lorenzo was back, at least in a hallucination. He said that despite what she did, he still loves her, but he did give her a warning. These kids are gonna find out, and when they do, they're never gonna forgive her.